Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, and we're going to talk about Amazon's brand new Wheel of Time series and why every single Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition Dungeon Master and every single Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition player should support Amazon's Wheel of Time series. Let's jump into it. All right. Okay, so why does the Amazon Wheel of Time series matter for Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition DMs and players? It matters a lot, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. So here's the thing. What is Amazon's Wheel of Time? Amazon's Wheel of Time series? Well, it is the most ambitious, most well-funded attempt at putting American fantasy on the board in the streaming age. And since Game of Thrones, okay? Now, Game of Thrones is very much American fantasy. It's, created by George R.R. Martin. He didn't finish it. And then the showrunners did finish it, and honestly, it was not a great finish. Like, it was it was a really terrible finish. I don't even think that's even contested now. Like, it's generally known that people were not happy with the Wheel of Time. You can have a dragon queen, or you can have Bran. Who's Bran? What did he do? I don't know. Like, he jumps into squirrels or something? I don't know. Right? Like, yeah, it nobody was happy. Right? Like, so Game of Thrones was on track to be a real winner, and it bobbled its landing. It just, and it made it so that we were right back where we were. And where we were? Well, get this. American fantasy on television fails all the time, every time, right? It is the worst possible mixture of business rules, right? Because it takes place in the past, you can't do product placement. That means that the people creating it, just look at the numbers on American fantasy on television, right? Listen, would you like to pay for CCG? Would you like to pay for computer generated imagery on half the shots and then not get any of the product placement money? Like, it's the worst. Like, it costs more than regular television and gives you way less option and cuts off some of your regular revenue streams. It's absolutely horrendous, okay? Now, here's the thing. American fantasy being successful on streaming is good for Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition. And the reason why is people come to these shows. My wife watched the Amazon Wheel of Time series with me. She doesn't play Dungeons & Dragons, and she doesn't care about American fantasy, right? But the reason why she gave it a shot was I was at the beginning, and I think I had just, we had watched something together that we had both really enjoyed, and you know what? Station 11. I was talking to her about Station 11, and she's like, why didn't you ask me to, watch this with you? And I rarely watch her to ask anything with me because we don't share the same tastes, right? And so she regretted not jumping on board Station 11 just based off of what I had told her. And it's like, we could have watched that together. And then I was like, well, I just watched 20 minutes of Wheel of Time. Do you want to give this a shot? We blasted through it in a weekend. We absolutely loved it. We watched it together, and this was very accessible to her. So if we're going, and the reality is, the idea that people will watch Wheel of Time who do not play Dungeons and Dragons and then say, hey, I want to play an Aes Sedai. I want to play as Aes Sedai. I want to cast spells, and I want to channel, and I want to, be powerful, right? People watching the show, they can do all of that in 5th edition. In fact, 5th edition is better suited to do it than any game on the market, right? And 5th edition is sitting right there waiting for them. They can walk into NAFLGS. They are guaranteed that the tabletop role-playing game will be on the shelf. If any TRPG in the world is on the shelf at their FLGS, it's going to be D&D. Ready, waiting, stocked, ready to go. Right? Like, any D&D then or any D&D not competitor? Who knows? Like, of course, D&D then isn't going to be on the shelves because it's not printed today. And, D&D not has about a 10% chance of being on the shelf, or whatever game it is. So, like, it's going to be there, right? So Wheel of Time is really important. And from the perspective of, again, what are your goals, right? Why is it important, right? Well, if you're listening to this channel, right, we want Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition to grow. And not just grow marginally to take a few other games players. We want it to take take non-existent players, people who are not playing D&D now, are not playing tabletop role-playing games at all, and bring them into the fold, right? And Wheel of Time can do that at a level that nothing can do that, okay? And the reason why is there's a whole lot of reasons. One, a lot of people are looking for a replacement for Game of Thrones. And the timing is perfect for a replacement of Game of Thrones because Game of Thrones dropped the ball at the end, right? And so people are like, well, I'm not done with American fantasy. Is there anything else? And the reality is, the answer is yes. Wheel of Time is right there, right? And Wheel of Time is very D&D. It's everything that D&D puts forward is right there, okay? With one exception, and that is dragons, right? Dragons are not in Wheel of Time. And basically, Wheel of Time, they do have this concept of the Dragon Reborn. By the way, spoilers for Wheel of Time in this content. Sorry, I said that late. I don't think I've given a spoiler to this point, but there's this concept of Dragon Reborn. But the Dragon Reborn is just a human, right? Like, well, with a whole bunch of powers, right? So there aren't any literal dragons in Wheel of Time, but there are certainly dungeons, right? And there are all of the regular classes and every single weapon you will find every single thing you need to run a Wheel of Time campaign is going to be found right there in your Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. You could run it, with the DMG, the PHB, and the MM, right? It's all right there. So that's great, right? So basically, because of this, because Wheel of Time is so important, right? And here's the other thing is, one of the things I realized, I've been thinking a lot about this Wheel of Time, we are incredibly spoiled, right? I think more and more, companies like Amazon are dropping $150 million, and the whole world is going, meh, right? And we're wrong. We are wrong. And this is another thing that I'm really fascinated by recently is the fans are almost always wrong nowadays. They really are, right? We know this now from Star Wars. The Star Wars fans who laughed in George Lucas's face, he got the last laugh. The fans were clearly wrong about the prequels, right? Basically, the fans were like, the prequels are bad, even though they've made more money than anything else in history, even though they've transformed the entire cinema, right, and made it, and even though they've transformed CGI and transformed technology and transformed American entertainment altogether, even though it's it's shattered, 15 different achievements that we didn't even know were possible, we still say it's bad, right? And Disney's like, oh, you thought the prequels were bad? Hold my beer. Watch the sequel trilogy, right? Now do you know what a steaming pile of crap is? And now do you understand you all owe a massive apology to George Lucas, and everything that's gone wrong with Star Wars is your fault and not Disney's, right? It's because we look at massive accomplishment and go, meh, right? And we're the ones who are wrong. And people are wrong right now about Wheel of Time, right? There's $150 million put into this thing if there was a dime on it. And it's incredibly good. And I think that every Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition DM, Dungeon Master, and every 5th edition player needs to get on board, right? And the reason why is if you support this, right? If you go watch it right now and then just give it a good chance, right? And if you don't like it, if you watch now, and I think what's happening right now is a lot of people are like, I have not watched this, but I'm very eager to tell you it's bad, Scott, even though you've watched every single episode. I can tell you right now, I watched it, right? I didn't half read the books. I didn't watch 5 minutes of it and turn it off. It's good. It's very, very good, right? And the reality is, if you want Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition to succeed, there's virtually nothing you can do that is more powerful and more helpful than simply watch Wheel of Time. And you don't even have to, like, just putting your eyeballs on it and them seeing that there's actually people giving it a chance will be enough to push through, right? And if you like it, tell people you liked it. And I'm telling people right now, get on this. It is extremely good, and I think it's a great successor to Game of Thrones. So Wheel of Time, they're the same, and except I really think Wheel of Time is going to be better. All right, so that's my opinion. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Do you agree? There's virtually nothing you can do right now more to help Wizards of the Coast, to help Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition to excel than to make this show succeed, because all its gains will be pluses to Dungeons and Dragons. That's my opinion. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.